Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the discussion on the daily quiz for the 15th of May 2022. Before we begin, a small update on our Target Prelims 2022 initiative. Tomorrow, that is the 16th of May, join us live at 7:30 p.m. for the first part of the discussion on science and technology. This discussion will be presented to you by Rashesh sir. You can set a reminder for the same. The link for the video you can find in the description box below. Let's get started with the first question of the day. The first question reads, which of the following statements best describes the newly launched Gatishakti Sanchar portal? The four options are: option A, it aims to provide for a mechanism seeking to promote cooperation and collaboration among the neighboring countries with respect to development of cross-border infrastructure projects. Option B reads, it will promote an integrated approach between the state governments with respect to development of interstate projects. Option C, it aims to provide for a common single portal for right-of-way permissions for telecom service providers as well as infrastructure providers. And option D reads, it aims to mobilize private sector involvement in the development of financially viable transportation-based infrastructure in rural India. Now, what is the context? This article from the PIB as well as the article from the Indian Express note the launch of the Gatishakti Sanchar portal by the Union Minister for Communication, Electronics and IT, Shri Ashwini Vaishnaw. So what does this portal aim to do? Basically, it aims to provide for a centralized portal or what we call a common single portal. This portal can be used by telecom service providers and infrastructure providers to seek right-of-way permissions to lay down their optical fiber cable or for erecting mobile towers. With this portal, the telecom service providers can get in touch with the respective governments or local bodies. So what this will do is, this will streamline the process. This streamlining of the process will result in the ease of doing business. This can help ensure faster creation of the digital communication infrastructure in India. This will be in line with our National Broadband Mission 2019. The National Broadband Mission aims to facilitate universal and equitable access to broadband services across the country, especially in rural and remote areas. Coming back to our question. From our discussion, it becomes very clear that the correct answer to this question is C. Moving on to the second question. Which of the following statement or statements is or are incorrect? Please note the question asks for incorrect statements. There are three statements given. First one, India is the largest wheat producer in the world. Statement 2, among the Indian states, Punjab is the state with the largest wheat production. Statement 3 reads, India has been the largest wheat exporter in the world over the last 3 years. Please have a look at the options. Now, what is the context? These articles from the Indian Express as well as the Hindu note the move of the Indian government to prohibit export of wheat with immediate effect. For a detailed discussion on the reasons for this prohibition as well as the adverse impacts that this could have, please refer to our big news article for the day. Let's come back to our question. Please note, India is not the largest wheat producer in the world. It is China. Consider the second statement. Among the Indian states, though Punjab is known for its prolific wheat production, it is Uttar Pradesh which accounts for the largest wheat production in India. It accounts for almost 1/3 of our national wheat production. So statement 2 is wrong. The correct answer would be Uttar Pradesh. The other states known for their wheat production involve Haryana and Madhya Pradesh. Now let's look at the third option. India has been the largest wheat exporter in the world over the last 3 years. Please note, in the recent month or so, there have been many articles which have noted the significant wheat exports from India. But you have to pay attention to the fact that despite the record wheat exports from India, India is not among the top wheat exporters in the world. So which country is the largest wheat exporter in the world? It is Russia. In fact, Russia and Ukraine put together account for more than quarter of the global wheat production. So the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine has resulted in The breakdown of the global wheat supply chains. Statement 3 is also wrong. Since the question asks for incorrect statement, the correct answer to this question would be option B, 1, 2 and 3. Moving on to the third question. The forest of this national park has been traditionally inhabited by the two indigenous tribes of Gonds and Baigas. This place is known for the conservation efforts with respect to the hard ground Barasinga. The above description is in respect to which of the following national parks? The four national parks mentioned here are Kanha National Park, Simlipal National Park, Dudhwa National Park and Gorumara National Park. The correct answer to this question would be Kanha National Park. The Kanha National Park is located in the central Indian highlands. It is located along the Maikal Range. The Kanha National Park has been home to two indigenous tribes of central India, namely the Gonds and Baigas. The national park is best known for the conservation efforts with respect to Barasinga. Please note that Barasinga is a type of deer. It is their distinct antlers which gives them the name Barasinga. In fact, Barasinga is also sometimes referred to as the jewel of Kanha. Kanha is the largest national park in MP and it also is home to the Kanha Tiger Reserve. Apart from housing animals like the tigers, Barasinga, the national park also has a substantial population of dholes and sloth bears. Now, what is the context to this question? This article from the PIB notes the expansion work happening at the Jabalpur airport. The article notes that this expansion work will help reap the tourism potential of nearby national parks such as the Kanha National Park as well as the Bandhavgarh National Park located in Madhya Pradesh. Note, we have already discussed about the Kanha National Park. Also, please note the Bandhavgarh National Park is located in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Moving on to the fourth question of the day. The question reads, India has free trade agreements with which of the following country or countries? There are six countries mentioned here: UK, United Kingdom, Canada, UAE, Australia, Israel, and Sri Lanka. Please have a look at the options. Before we discuss the question, let's understand the context. This article from the PIB notes the consultation between the Commerce and Industry Minister Shri Piyush Goyal and the industry participants as part of India's FTA negotiations with UK, EU and Canada. Let's come back to the question. Before we discuss this, let's understand what we mean by free trade agreements. Free trade agreements are agreements between two or more countries to remove trade barriers and facilitate trade between them. What happens with free trade agreements is that it enables goods and services to be exchanged across borders with limited or no tariffs or quotas. So basically, it provides an impetus to trade relationships. We have another similar term called preferential trade agreement. It would be pertinent to understand the difference between the two before we go ahead with our discussion. Please note, while the FTA, that is Free Trade Agreement, has a negative list on which duty is not reduced, when it comes to the Preferential Trade Agreement, it consists of a positive list of products where duty is reduced. So we can summarize that free trade agreements are more comprehensive in nature. Now let's analyze the options given. As noted in the PIB article discussed previously, FTA negotiations are ongoing with UK as well as Canada. So we can eliminate those options with 1 and 2. So we can eliminate A, we can also eliminate C, and we can also eliminate D. So here you can analyze how by just eliminating 2 we have arrived at the right answer. But for better understanding, let's look at each of these countries. India and UAE very recently signed the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement or the CEPA. Notably, this is India's first CEPA in above a decade. The previous CEPA signed by India was with Japan in 2011. Also recently, India and Australia signed the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. This is often referred to as the Indos ECTA. This is being defined as an interim free trade agreement which will help ensure zero duty rate on several items of bilateral trade between the two countries. India's first bilateral FTA was with Sri Lanka in the year 2000. So what are the other countries with which India has free trade agreements? As mentioned earlier, India has free trade agreements with Japan and South Korea as well. Please note, apart from having bilateral free trade agreements, India also has a free trade agreement with the ASEAN. India has been pursuing free trade agreement deliberations with countries such as Israel, Russia, and South Africa. So, we do not have a free trade agreement with Israel as yet. Moving on to the last question of the day. This is a question from the 2019 UPSC Prelims General Studies paper. The question reads, which of the following is not included in the assets of a commercial bank in India? It gives four options: A. Advances, B. Deposits, C. Investments, and D. Money at call and short notice. Please note, commercial banks operate as financial intermediaries. That is, they borrow money from the depositors and lend it to borrowers. While the banks levy interest rate on the borrowers, they have to pay interest to the money deposited with them. So from this basic understanding of the functioning of a commercial bank, it becomes easy to approach this question. While deposits could be classified as liabilities, the advances made by the bank and investments made by it, as well as the money at call and short notice, are what could be called as assets of the bank. So the right answer is option B. For better clarity, let's understand what do you mean by money at call and short notice. Basically, money at call is nothing but a short-term interest earning financial loan that the borrower has to pay back immediately when the lender demands. This is basically a type of loan given by one financial institution to another financial institution. Since loans earn interest to the lending banks, money at call and short notice can also be classified as assets. Moving on to the fact of the day, Starlink. This article in the Indian Express notes the launch of 53 Starlink satellites by the SpaceX company. Now, what is Starlink? Starlink is basically a satellite internet constellation operated by SpaceX. This constellation consists of many small satellites in the lower Earth orbit. Here, lower Earth orbit meaning satellites orbiting at an altitude of around 550 kilometers. Now let us understand what are certain advantages of such satellite internet systems compared to the more traditional fiber systems. These space-based systems can help bring internet access to underserved areas of the world. Also, since these systems do not require the laying down of optical fibers, the cost involved in their installation is less. This can ensure lower internet prices for the users. Also, it is known to provide high speed and low latency along with high bandwidth. Another notable advantage of such a system is that, as compared to the traditional optical fiber systems, which can get damaged during a disasters, these satellite-based internet connections can ensure utility and connectivity even during disasters. Given these inherent advantages, the satellite internet systems are finding increasing acceptance globally. Please note, Starlink is not the only such company. There are other well-known projects as well, such as the Project Kuiper by Amazon as well as OneWeb. Please try and remember these names. So with this, we'll end our discussion for the day. Thank you for being with us.